Hi, my name is Emily Stevenson, and I am an elementary art teacher. I teach first through fourth graders in Wilmette, Illinois, and I live in Evanston, Illinois, so I live and work just north of the city of Chicago along Lake Michigan, so it's a pretty great place to be during the summer. The artist that I chose to feature for my research is Kollwitz. She is sometimes known as a German expressionist. But from my reading, there is some disagreement about that. So I've also seen her described as a naturalist. So I'll let you decide that on your own. I think some of her woodcuts tend to look more expressionist and fall into the German expressionist movement. But some of her lithography, I think, has a softer tone and would probably better be described as naturalism. So she is an artist who lived through both of the world wars, and she experienced a lot of loss, and that's going to become evident as we look at some of her artwork. The reason I chose her and chose to feature her was because she's influenced my personal work, and my personal style is somewhat akin to hers. However, the subject matter that I work on in my own artwork is not the same, not the same type of themes, but the same sort of stylistic elements. She's not an artist that I've been able to teach in my curriculum yet with elementary school students. I thought her themes were a little bit too mature and too heavy. However, looking at more of her work for this research project has shown me that there are some pieces that I think would be age appropriate for the children I work with, so I may include her next year, we'll see. So I'm going to take you through, I'm going to start with her self-portraits and explain a little bit of her biography for you. So this is a picture that's, well, the title's in German, but it's a laughing self-portrait. It's from 1888-89. It's a picture of her when she was about 21 years old. She was actually born in 1867 in Königsberg, East Prussia. Her father was a Protestant minister who was liberal-leaning politically, and at the time he would have preached sermons about social injustice, and that sort of narrative of being passionate about social injustice carries through much of her work her entire lifetime. So you'll see that connection. And the reason I wanted to include this self-portrait, which is a lithograph, is because it shows her as a younger woman, and also it's lighthearted and has sort of a joyful feel when many of the pieces that you're going to see of her when she's older and made later on in life have a darker, heavier theme to them. So this is the first self-portrait. The next one I'm going to include is this piece here, another self-portrait. This one was made in 1934, and it's another lithograph, another self-portrait. This one, she's much older. This one was made in 1934, and at this point, she had lost one of her two sons, her second-born son, in World War I. She had a grandson who was killed in World War II, who was actually named after the first son who passed away. She also, during her lifetime, had earned some acclaim and some positions teaching as a professor in an academy of art, and she had to leave both of those very honorable positions once Hitler came to power, and she actually had to leave her community. She had to leave to live somewhere safer, and her husband passed away, so she experienced a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and I think that this self-portrait definitely communicates that. Also, in some of the modules we've talked about aging in portraiture, and I think she does a beautiful job of actually enhancing age and using the evidence of age to convey her sorrow and her suffering, and I think we all can imagine the faces of people who have lived a hard life, and that those faces tell you that, they convey that through expression and also through just the wear and tear of the years. And so I think she does that beautifully. She communicates that beautifully here. So the next piece that I'm going to show you is another self-portrait. This portrait, like the last one you saw, is also a very close, sort of zoomed in perspective on her face, and the hand is very predominant in this self-portrait. So I read in some of my research that she uses the face and uses the hands to convey motion and expression. She doesn't use the figure as much, but I thought it was really interesting and noticeable that she uses hands in a lot of her work. And hands, if you think about it, also show age, and they also show the difference in how you've lived your life. If you've lived a hard life and you've done manual labor, your hands age very quickly, and if you've lived a more privileged socialite sort of life, your hands would probably retain their youthfulness a little bit longer. So I think the hands are very telling, just as the face is, and she includes those in many of her works. I am going to skip ahead to this print. So far we've looked at a lot of lithography. This piece is actually a woodcut. It's very graphic in nature. She actually studied graphic arts along with painting and printmaking, and she also studied sculpture. So I think some of her work ends up looking very sculptural. The way she carved the wood here creates this convex shape, and the face really appears to sort of be coming out into space. Also, this is very heavy, lots of black, thick, bold lines, which I think make this piece look like it fits more into the German expressionist category than the naturalist category. And again, this piece is from later in her life. It's from 1922 to 23, so a little bit later. So the later on in life these pieces, these self-portraits have been created, you can imagine the more suffering she's endured, the more loss. So we'll go on to some non-self-portraits, some other portraits. Before I get to some of her darker work, I did want to show sort of the breadth of her work by including some pieces. I know this is small, it's larger on the original website, but some of the pieces that are not as heavy in nature and actually are joyful in nature. So I included the self-portrait earlier. This piece is called Welcome, and it's an etching, and this piece features a family, or so we assume, a family, a father, a mother, and a child, and the father is embracing the child. I'm going to try to make it larger for you. The father is embracing the child, perhaps after returning from a work day. So it shows, stylistically it's consistent with her work, but it shows a little bit more joy and a happy sort of family reuniting, which is a little bit different from some of the other pieces we're going to see. So let's see, I'm going to go back here. And another joyful picture that I included is one of mother and child, and there are many images that she's created with featuring mother and child, which on a personal note has really resonated with me after becoming a mother 1 year from, 1 year ago, today, so my daughter is almost 1 year old. So looking at these pictures has brought out more of an emotional response in me studying them this summer than they ever have before. This picture shows, the baby touching the mother's face, which is very intimate, a warm smile from the mother, a warm embrace. It's a really beautiful, sweet image. This was actually created for another publication. So this is more of sort of a graphic, created for a magazine than a fine art piece that she created for a series. So it's another, it was created for a periodical, so it's another lithograph. And then I'm going to go back to some of the heavier work to end on. This piece here is very important in her career. It's sort of, it launched her career. It's called The March of the Weavers, and she created it after watching a play by the same name by Gerhard Hauptmann. And the play and the print are a reference to this workers' rebellion that is part of Germany's history, and it was very ugly and violent, and it was very political. And by choosing to focus on this allegorically, she was able to was able to make a political statement about something that had happened in the past. And it also showed that she had deep empathy for these workers and their suffering. And empathy is another big theme for her. And then I'm going to end on the darkest image yet, just because what a great way to end. So this image is called Death of Woman and Child. And this image is one that the theme she revisits many times in her career, sort of mother and child, kind of referencing the Pietà image, the mother of Christ holding the dead Christ in her lap. So there's a bit of a religious context, and also just a highly empathic context of a mother and a child, either both passing away, or there's other images where death is grabbing the child, which are very, very emotional. So I'm going to stop there on the heaviest image, which is probably a bad idea, but I hope that this presentation helped you see a bit of the breadth and depth of the work of Kathy Kollwitz, and thank you for bearing with me as I fumble through the technology here. And if you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them, so please message me and let me know what your thoughts are on this presentation. Thank you so much.